Furthermore, Bangladesh contributes of manpower and physical labor. Unfortunately, its political history is marked by upheavals and violence. The founding father of the nation was killed just 4 years after independence in the military coup. Until 1990, war shifted between the two military regiments. This period of military rule irreversibly damaged the commitments to democracy, secularism, socialism, and nationalism made at the birth of a new nation, instead setting up a path there and toward Islamic fundamentalism. Our military dictator freed war criminals and allowed them to set up a religious political party. Another amended the constitution to recognize Islam as a state religion. Friday became a weekly holiday instead of Sunday, following the modern setup by Saudi Arabia. With the help of Middle Eastern diplomacy and well money, Islamic fundamentalism gained a powerful platform in politics, economy, and society. As it has been Egypt, Turkey, and Algeria, so it has been in Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that Bangladesh is a small nation and economically less developed area. We know that Bangladesh suffers from regular natural disasters like flooding and cyclones. Yet the people of Bangladesh are resilient in their determination to turn things around the dream of better future. But this is not enough to counter the lack of democratic governance. After decades of military rule, the renewed promise of democracy has been lost in the unilateral autocratic rule of powerful political parties. The people of Bangladesh have been helpless and have had to turn to the power, to military and fundamentalism to tackle political autocracy. Beyond the political scheming and power race lies another Bangladesh. It is a Bangladesh of many religious peacefully coexisting together. A Bangladesh of vibrant science and bold song. Many poets, writers, artists, and singers have been born here. It is a rich tradition of poetry, novels, and storytelling. The scarcity of translation has meant many people have not experienced this rich literature. However, there have been glimpses of the work of stories. Your citizens lies in the facility of the knowledge value. In 1913, Rabindranath Tagore, a black poet and personality of Bengali literature, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. He don't want his song that is now the national anthem of Bangladesh. However, I do not think the novel is always a mark of a great writing. Perhaps this is why I had the opportunity to read Ibsen's work long before I came to know it. So when I received Icon's critic of English intervention from Skien, when I was still laid in the hospital, I was still unsure what this unknown heaven was. It was soon after that my wife Våga did a Google search for Skien and told me that it is Ibsen's city. And all of a sudden, my thoughts on Skien completely changed. It no longer felt unknown. It was an extraordinary coincidence. This is why I think literature of such utmost importance. I firmly believe that literature plays a crucial role in the development and preservation of the world democracy, secularism, equality, and cultural diversity. This is why I do not view my publishing now as a business venture, but rather as a socio-cultural movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure you can appreciate the great danger in trying to preserve free thoughts, religious ethics, and secularism given the circumstance I have outlined for you. You must know the brutal murders of writers, bloggers, and publishers in Bangladesh. I ask you, can you show me any other country where people consider ethics as their main compliance and publish in press release asking readers to murder them? And the democratic government of the land admits theirs, not having to protect their own citizens. You have heard the name Ahmedur. I was his publisher on many of his books. He was brutally hacked to death with message shortly after attending a book launch at our national book fair in front of thousands in public. His wife, Våga Ahmed, was grievously injured but survived like me. There were hundreds of policemen and security forces near the site of the murder on that day, where the assailants were able to escape without any damage. There has been no judicial proceedings in this case to this day. Another murder blogger was Ratan. After receiving that threat and realizing he was being followed, he went to the police for his protection. But they paid no heed to his orders. I was most fortunate in this regard. I went to the police station with a journalist friend and diary. They believed that my complaint was filed on the very same day due to the intervention of my job. Even then, some of the police officers told me that the best solution was for me to stop publishing books. They told me that Bangladesh was not ready for such country. Ironically, state officials were trying to censor freedom of speech that was guaranteed by the Constitution. Basically, I would find the strength of such advice over the next few days. One by one, Ahmedur, Babu, Milonil were all free. I had published Ahmedur's first ever book. He was like a younger brother to me at school. The day he was killed, I began to truly appreciate the value of my work. I switched off my mobile phone and completely changed my routines at home and at my office. In fact, since then, I went from being constantly busy with publishing, business ventures, various cultural events, and activities, to being completely withdrawn from everything as only means of safety. I was scared to send my children to school. During this time, I reported some truly owing incidents to the police, but they ignored me. It is impossible to explain the terrifying situation that was gripping the entire country. Amidst such terror, many people fled abroad. One such blogger Ratan. Despite writing under a pseudonym, he was unable to evade the danger. He and his wife had left behind their jobs as a banker and a teacher and moved to a foreign country. I wonder, will he ever regain his former heritage? Another was Jahid. Along with their two young children, he and his wife abandoned everything and have spent the past 2 years wandering without a destination in sight. There are countless others still suffering and survive and escape to other countries. I appeal to request all international organizations to come forward to save them. Ladies and gentlemen, I was unable to thwart the attack to me despite my best effort. The militants broke into my office and threatened my employees with revolvers, along with It has come to kill the Mukta people. It has spoken of peace and attacked me with sharp message. When two rider friends tried to intervene to save me, the two were with their hands. Then they left, locking us inside and leaving me to bleed to death. 20 minutes later, the police arrived, broke down the lock, and took us to the hospital. Miraculously, I survived this ordeal. This was the first time that the target of victory of terrorist campaign had escaped alive. It was a huge failure in this to their approach. It is true that that witness of God to me of the choice of life. The sheer happiness of the going there and the excitement of spending time with my loved one. And I am extremely grateful to Kumar and the people of Skien for giving me the opportunity to live a supreme life for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I am now living a safe and peaceful life in the beautiful city of Skien. Democracy? This is a question I often ask myself and confront with myself. And now that I have to maintain my physical and mental well-being, really, when my doctors ask for a slight interview to properly store all their positions and get a standing rest inside, I find myself unable to restrain. Although I consider myself a citizen of the world, I yearn for my homeland. I do not hope for away the possibility of returns has become. Truly, artists and poets feel the effects of binary opposition more acutely. This pain is akin to solving a potent poison. On the one hand, I am safe, on the other hand, I am not. I do not think if I will ever recover from this trauma in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I am shocked at the violent fundamentalism that is flooding my country, and I firmly believe it is ushering towards a new age of neoliberalism. Bangladesh unique geopolitics and its natural resources, including oil and gas, make it the prime target for the regional and international forces of imperialism that are reaching surface here. As you may know, Bangalore has struggled under the exploitation of several colonial powers for centuries before 1971. I worry that the ongoing Rohingya refugee crisis is a sign that Bangladesh is heading down the same path that has afflicted Syria. I do not want to see my beloved home suffer this way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the sad reality of the crisis facing peace in Bangladesh. Therefore, I have been able to give you the proper background to the predicament facing Bangladeshi bloggers and programs. This is a very struggle that has forced so many of us to seek refuge abroad, including in your country. I do not like to talk about my own situation. I used to be a publisher. My publishing house released more over 1,000 items books. Perhaps I became too interested in my conviction to release books that promoted this and feedback. My career started 26 years ago as an editor of a magazine newspaper. I write poetry and occasionally wrote as well. Last January, I started publishing episodes of an online magazine from Jahid. Truthfully, I had a big desire to return home to Bangladesh. But the sad truth is that I have no hope to do so. I want to dedicate my new life to working for a competition of writers, publishers, and artists who are facing life-threatening situations in Bangladesh and around the world. I want to not like that welfare. I want to revitalize my life of creativity. Thank you. I want to sincerely give thanks to Chief Videotech and Chief Community for inviting to my event and for inviting me to speak. And I would greatly appreciate if anybody from any videotech would stand up and speak in solidarity with our situation. Thank you. Thank you for all questions and this interview. Thank you very much. There's no way. It's not worth it. That is Ratan, Kumar, Ratan. Thank you. Ratan, Skien, infinity, in a public level, or immediately from the city of Houston. Actually, in Bangladesh, I was in Bangladesh, I didn't know in Norwegian Bangladesh. What was it? The main question that I did is all sorts. And the moment when I arrived here, I feel proud of being here. After I arrived there, I just took to go to the and I just took the name of them. Thank you for including Bangladesh in the freedom of speech. And I think it is very famous in Bangladesh. Why I am here and why back in Bangladesh, I was not a writer. That I am the descendant of the government and identity government. But I was not a fictional writer. I was a creator. I used to wrote some community works, personal works, and I was something and it was just my professional writing, what I feel myself. And that with this, there is a very good appreciation. What we want to see, there is no place. First, we walk the roads and we have a good place. I think there are many people who are thinking like me. And I'm not looking for the people experience with the public. So I started writing. So, except that, I was a bank manager, branch manager, and it was the largest bank in Bangladesh. So, and my work was with officer. So, I used to, sometimes I used to do the poets and writers in the city. I am not from the city, I am from the small city, Våga, which is the southern part of Bangladesh. So that was what I did. But in 2010, somehow I got introduced with the work, and the interesting part of it was that work went somehow in growth, and it was funded by Norwegian. With the Bangladeshi educating Bangladeshi way, and this from the Samadder, which means Jahid, he funded the work. And I started writing that. And what I said that I decided for example, I thought that I could have a choose, I started increasing my thoughts. And the people was in 2010. And I tried, usually knew my name. I am working for something that I write it as pseudonym so much. So that you will get know me, but it was not happening. And in the different day, in 14th December is the archive intellectual in Bangladesh, in a song of 1971, And in 1971, just 16%, 16% is our history. In 14% it was just 2 years before independence, biological independence, Pakistan and Pakistan identity of collaborators in almost all the existing intellectuals they were in Bangladesh and left here. And I wrote the blog portraying that there was the aim of Bangladesh in a country with a freedom of speech and dignity. And it was so popular that it was the implemented that day was the highest rating day of that book, and it was publishers used for the internet general community. So Islamists they got raised after reading this. So I try to say that yeah, Pakistan is they will believe that they are not they were not able to keep Bangladesh in their part. But what was the mindset behind those people who supported the Pakistan army? And because those people they had a clear identity. They have all Islamists. And they are not just general Muslims, they are actually Islamists, essentially not just Muslims. And they have the radical mindset. They want to destroy the people who build Bangladesh as a nation, as a good nation, as a nation where everybody has the right. Because those who have law and other trouble, they try to eliminate this so that in the long run, Bangladesh will not survive. And it was so popular that in that group, Samadder group, there was some rating, like already there is a class rating, there is minus rating, and all the Islamists, they started giving minus rating, and later the total minus rating is withdrawn from this also. Okay, that's how it started, and maybe that was why I have been included in the nucleus in 2013. Yeah, I will try with some other groups, but and also on the regulation. In 2013, I was surprised when I was finding myself in the nucleus of it is not the celebrities, because nucleus of it was a list of atheists. And they published in 2013. I got in the chapter it was published. It really still not know who published it, but it was published by some editors in this. And I was surprised that I didn't read it here. And then I thought I should do. I understood express I didn't told it. I didn't tell it to my wife. Yeah, and after 3 years after 3 years before publishing the list, it came on a conference. Okay, and also they had another friend, and he is not of Hassan. So I did not tell my wife that I had to do this. I had my routines. I would leave the routines with the help of my parents, and there was dark. It actually done, and that's why I just stayed in the office because my dad was wearing gun there, and I told them to be vigilant. But still, I had to do other things, and I didn't tell it to my wife. My wife came to know in 50 when many of my other friends have been killed. And because I was popular, particularly in Facebook and those also, everyone objected, when objector was here, I was licensed by many things. You should do Bangladesh. at least I was very much thinking that I should be Bangladesh, but they were still like what is happening to your children? What is happening to your children? What is happening to your what? If you are like you say you never think about yourself, but what is happening to them? That's why after a visit that came and then another friend came and then another teacher was killed. So only teacher that day only teacher was killed. Actually only teacher was selected as the icon designer. But it is he could not come there. Yeah, and maybe it was not I who really bargained. It might have been only the design. Yeah. But he could not come there. Yeah, at the time he was killed. So that's why I think that I should do something like that. I applied to icon. And icon this is my application to fast. And that I am really grateful to icon and yeah, my bargain city and knowledge and with knowledge. And if I applied in India and it was approved to made implementation and it was approved to do implementation and I had to bargain 2006 July 2015. So that was my story. In bargain, I did, I am very good to do bargain therapy because bargain community are very good. And what I have, it means that adjustment in the improvement and setting is everything. The language is different. My writing and blogging is also difficult because I could take the material from the society. The society I was living in. I am not writing the world. I am living there, but the society there is not, they are providing all the support for me, but they are not providing the writing material. So I am still blogging and writing in Facebook and adaptation. I am writing, I am written a novel, but it is in English and it is not been published. And it is about Bangladesh and the history of nationalism. Bangladesh was not was a secular country. It was a secular country. The total independent movement was against the political Islam of Pakistan. It was totally a secular movement. But then gradually the time, and I have that. I don't know if I will be published. But I am trying to do that. And the language, the intelligence, it is difficult. I understand. I can understand maybe 6, 70, 80% that I was finishing, but when I am in the road, I did not understand. If you target dialect, because we learn the book mode, in your book mode, but in the roads I see, I hear one dialect. It's difficult for me, but the quality is good. And in what really, what we can say, there are many Bangladeshi still they are in danger. Yeah, it's irony, it might be irony, it could be here, because we are there, or irony that there was attack in 2016 in the first week of July in Bangladesh, 28% was killed. The highest some discussions and after the first July attack, there is some sort of hunting of the terrorists, all this crime, but it's superficial, some sort of, because if you put fertilizer into it and put water into it, and if you do some dances from the field, that the tree will not die. If you want to, uh, want to, yeah, want to in the weeds, you have to uproot it. But Bangladesh has madrasa education, is totally Islamic-based education. In Våga is Islamic, there is something like Våga is a very diverse education. Hundreds of thousands of students are coming from those education systems, and they do not get the general education, like they do not know what is math, what is science, and other things. They know only read Islamic things, and that is not problem also. Only Islamic things, but they get that you have to be a good Muslim, you have to get scholars. You have to be jihad. So these sort of things are included by hundreds of us. Muhammad has no control of a major portion of these students. More than half of the students, this organization, this, there are some madrasa education, there is some part, and one part government has no control of it. So they are giving education whatever they want to give. And these people, when they are giving only madrasa education, because after they complete the education, they have a job. So they are, it is easy to motivate them to be involved in this development. So they are not doing it. So still, there are many like me, they are good at some others and writers, we are still doing that. Like 2 days ago, we started one person messaged me that he people go home for last 3 years because some of the editors they declare that this man is racist. So this is your right to do like some sort of things, and so he is asking for help to me. So here to apply or other things. So this type of, I am here in Norway, I cannot go to Bangladesh, that's different, but he is living in Bangladesh. But he is not able to go home. You can imagine how it is. So there are many who is living abroad, like Nepal and other countries, they have been able to manage the things to come in Europe or other countries to do the CD, yeah. I hope Norwegian or other international humanitarian organizations will help to relocate these people. They deserve to create. Okay, that's my story. And now, how I am. I want to poem. I mean, it was written after I was in Norway after after 1 year. It was between 16 March. Yes. I was sending in the then I think that went so I completed this. Yeah, around standing on the balcony, sitting there in the wall, and this very tiny little waves. The sound of the tiny waves. Even together, I can see flowers, only flowers, pointing down. So these are waves that I never see flowers. Only thing I hear is the unseen beat of the wind. It beats with the dance of the wind. It shows the bird trees, evaluating their skin together. And the wisdom along valley grass is kind of negligence to the life. It carols Marathis to religious stars, and it is raised its wings into my lungs that float into last night's river. Considering deep into the air, I hear a few things something about. It's coming from a little flower. I can perceive the future of great because it's time. I do not know which far it is, but I am standing here and paying no attention to the sound because I am hearing the sound of a long animal. It is always similar to the sound I would love to hear or to sing like this was my life. My country, my family, my real life, my family, my senior. And after that, it starts something singing. I know the world will stop soon, and the pain of the simulation of the city will make it easier for me. So here I am, standing here in the sea of an unknown world, and thinking it's great. Thank you very much, Ratan. Now, next one, I will welcome is last one about you can explain and talk with the best people what so dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to icon that I am here today, alive and speaking to you. I am honored and thankful to Skien Diplomatic and Skien Community also Amnesty International. I am also honored and thankful to all of you who are present today and listening. I am Jahid. I am the new icon tester in Våga. I come with my family in last April this year. I come with my family in last. I come from Bangladesh. I had to leave my country in October 2015. I am writer and journalist ex-publisher. Also, I was associated with an organization named Bangladesh Science and Nationalist Association. I am the founder and co-convener of this organization. My history is about my organization, Bangladesh Science and Nationalist Association, BSRA, and my friend Rashid, who was an organizer of science education, a writer, a blogger, and a online activist. Hillary got killed on the 2nd August 2015, and my partner was saved forever. Let me tell you a few things about my friend Hillary. Neil was 27 years old, studies philosophy in Dhaka University, doing his master's and working in a research organization. But it says nothing about him. He was a writer, publishing regularly in blog and social media. He was a social activities organizing action program for trial for war criminals, protests on violence against women, protests against the ICT Act that is a very law, and protection of environment like stop a 12-hour plant project in Singapore, the largest mangrove forest in the world. Neil was writing against all forms of violence, especially on religion-based violence. For that, Neil wrote extensively on Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism. One of his subjects was to analyze the status of women is in different religious states. His writing was full of research and with humor. He started the organization ESRA in 2011. We worked together from the beginning of the organization. Our objective was to promote science education and expose blind faith and superstition. At the last time he was General Secretary of DSR. I should tell a story to give you a picture how he was as a pastor. One day he got a phone call that one patient with open blood. The person happened to be an imam. He was also organizing blood donation camp. I told him that why you want to give your blood to a fundamentalist who are against us. He repeated, it's about people. I am giving my blood to a human being. I will that do right. Who is it? It was not an accident. He received many threats in his Facebook and email. It was clear that he is under life threat. One day female followed him to articles and police advised him to leave the country. They did not give him any security. We know clearly that there are many Islamic terrorist groups, ones who are organized by Jahid Islam. We know who are the killers. Why want to restore the secular and scientific knowledge in our society? We know they are linked to political parties like Jahid Islam. Government did nothing to ensure the freedom of speech and provides security to the writers and intellectuals who are secular and atheist. The situation is extremely difficult for critical thinker and writers. For that example, one of my women writers said she is receiving constant threat and living underground, trying to live Bali. She is trying to get help from the police on that. But how long one can be such situation? If there are any political unrest, she may be get killed. Also, like she, many Bangladeshi secular blogger or writers are escape Bangladesh or other countries with writings. My topic is not really targeted secular activities writer. This is because of political power. The present ruling army and 14 parties allies who are in power is considered to be liberal and central-led. Historically, these parties lead the freedom struggle of Bangladesh in 1971. They have openly promoted secularism and anti-Bengali culture opposite to Arab Islamic culture. So it is very softly for liberal and secular people that they are now under the identical control of fundamentalist parties. The main opposition BNP is in coalition with Islamic fundamentalist party Jahid Islam. The position BNP and Jahid Islamic propagate that the Auli in atheism. Now the present Auli government tries to present them as a pro-Islamic. Therefore, they did not want to do anything for protecting the rights of secular and anti-Semites. The government is trying to only to address the terrorist attack if the Islamic terrorists are attacking Jews or foreigners. That happened in 2016 in the diplomatic area of Dhaka, where 20 foreigners have been killed in a restaurant called Holy Article. After this attack, government is taking action against the same. But the group are still preparing and recruiting terrorists and threatening the secular and right anti-Semites. Government is doing nothing about the ideology and the political action of the fundamentalists. That's true. Government is looking as if these are two misguided young boys. Government is not willing to see the full ideological and political infrastructure of the terrorists. The secular and democratic forces are very weak in Bangladesh. The present government is trying to get support from Islamic by opposing them. But the fundamentalists will never vote for only. Therefore, in next election, if the BNP Jahid Islam come in power, the situation for the secular and anti-Semitic will not improve, rather will be improved. Now, finish is not protected. their initiative also starts against the developer, but I do not know what will happen in future. There is a recent study by a professor of Illinois University of USA, Professor Aridia, divided that around 8% Muslim people want both democracy and Sharia law. That means one hand there is a strong desire for democratic government, on the other hand, Islamic propaganda through religious meeting like was talking. People also not liberty story. The system is getting on. We are organizing ourselves from outside and inside the country. Many of our friends are helping, but continuously writing for secular democracy. We have to fight. Thank you.
Now we have a break for about 15 minutes, and then we will come back to hear Våga and Samadder talks about his project for the Lite øyeblikk. Lite. Du skal få billig. Vet du hva, jeg har ikke problem med lyden, så jeg lurer på om jeg må koble om igjen på anleggen. I matte nå, de har brukt litt lang tid. Det er sikkert lengre tid enn du hadde beint. Ja, jeg regner med det. Ja. Jeg bare lurer på, skal vi, når jeg avslutter, skal vi gå direkte over til samtalen, kanskje? Er det litt enkelt som fordi at vi holder med folk litt? Hvis det er greit for deg. Ja, da gjør jeg det. Så. Ja, tror jeg. Hva ser du? Ja, jeg var kjekt på spørsmål, men jeg er ikke klar.
Hva gjør jeg? Sitter bare her, så får vi bare
Presentation, any other discussion? Yeah, all of you there. So, getting another chair because I think this chair is not comfortable for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's low chair is good.
Not low chair. Why is it? Any specific?
Just I think.
Okay. So now we make this ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Bra idé. Jeg setter de bare på
I'd like to be on Du gir et tegn når vi skal sette opp. Det er litt sånn at du dør ja, vi tar det på det. Så når de skal snakke sammen, så kan de andre dele på folk inn i det her. Ja, Skal vi rope på folk? Er det noen som er ute og roper? Ja, velkommen tilbake til del 2 av Bangladesh temakveld. Snakker litt norsk, og så tar jeg litt engelsk etterpå. First Norwegian, then some English afterwards. Våga er journalist og redaksjonssjef, stemmer ikke, i Stavanger Aftenblad. Utdannet fotograf. Og som jobber lenge i presse og var veldig engasjert i norsk journalistlag. Som jo er en viktig organisasjon, som også jobber med ytringsfrihet. Så når vi skulle finne noen som kunne på en måte lede en samtale, det var jeg som var utgangspunktet. Jeg ønsket å finne noen som kunne snakke og fortelle og være litt oppdatert på situasjonen i Bangladesh, for sånn sikkert flere her har merket seg ikke at det er noe vi hører mye om i avisene og radioen og TV. den situasjonen for ytringsfriheten i Bangladesh. Men da dukker navnet ditt opp veldig fort. Og er også en kobling til ICON her, som du selv vil fortelle om, eller Friby-nettverket. Så gleder vi oss til å først få en innføring i arbeidet deres med forbudte stemmer, og så etterpå blir det en samtale på direkten da. First, Våga will present his work with Forbidden Voices. And then afterwards, we will go directly to the conversation with all three of you from writers from Bangladesh. So, that's good.
Thank you. First of all, I have to say that this project has been done with my colleague Jan Sahl, which fortunately or unfortunately is back in Stavanger. The idea was based on why do people have to leave a country because what they have expressed during writing, talking, singing, blogging, and whatever. And what make people leave and what make other people stay, which are in the same situation. That was the idea, and the idea was founded on the ICON, which is based headquartered in Stavanger. And it was natural for us to start looking for people to select. And we were thinking about going to the places where they live now and going to the country which they have to leave. And there was a big discussion where we should go. First of all, we have to go to places which will be safe in a way. Even some of the countries we went to which isn't exactly a democracy. So we decided to pick 5 places, and the problem is everybody is concerned about the freedom of speech, but how to tell the stories about people who live far, far away in country where most of you probably know very little, and how to make it interesting for the readers and the people who see it on the website. And I will present you with some faces and some names. You probably never heard names except from one who's sitting in this very room now. And I'll give you a short introduction to each one of them and why they have to leave their home country. This is a project being presented in the newspaper and also, of course, on the web. And there's a podcast, which is a quite new experience for us, making a podcast. And it will probably be translated into English and be published during the ICON network. So hopefully these stories will be spread. It's not because Jan and me is the important people here, but I think that the subject is very important because there is a lack of freedom of speech, not only in these countries which we visited, but also in Europe as well. If you look on, for instance, what's happening in Turkey, and if you see what's happening in United States, where Trump is going to war against journalism. So I think we all have to, not only the 3 formidable and honorable gentlemen who's been on stage earlier today, I think we all have to stand up for this fight. It's very, very important. This man was a respected artist. He became a criminal. He became a prisoner. He was a refugee. And he became finally an enemy of the people and of Iran. This is Mana Naistani. He's been living in Paris since 2011. He's a cartoonist. And like everybody who's drawing in Iran, there's a kind of a line, a red line, you don't have to cross in Iran. If you cross it, you'll be put into prison. He was a political cartoonist at the beginning, at a very young age, and he was also pushing this border between what is accepted and what is illegal in Iran by the government. But after a while, he ended up making drawings for the children pages in a big newspaper, and he thought then he would be safe, of course, because drawings for children shouldn't be political. But one day he needed somebody to talk to a small boy, which he was making a cartoon of, and he came up with the idea, why don't I use a cockroach, kakerlakk in Norwegian, and then he put it into there's a small conversation between this boy and the cockroach, and it's very innocent conversation, but it ends up that the cockroach is saying something to the boy, Namana, which in English would be what, or in Norwegian we would say okay, or whatever. Just a kind of a word to pass it on. But it turns out that this was a word from a Turkish minority in Iran, and everybody believed that when he used this word, he was telling that everybody in this minority was cockroach. And there was a telephone coming to the editor, and the editor, he was saying, I'm sorry about this, it was a mistake, we shouldn't have done it. And but then there was demonstration, and the demonstration spreads all over Iran, and it ended up with, and the police answered with guns, and 19 people were killed. And Mana, he's a shy gentleman, and he ended up being put in jail without being going to court before, and stayed there for 50 days. And at last he was let out from jail because there was to be a trial later on. And then he decided that I will not be able to live in Iran anymore, and I will end up in jail for the rest of my life. So he fled with his wife because of this small cartoon. And he told me that he felt in a way like the man in Kafka's book, you probably read it, which runs in this labyrinth and you don't know who is enemy and who is a friend. And he ended up being on the run with false passports for 4.5 years. He went to different countries, and he ended up in Paris, where he now is drawing, and without any limitation, without any borders. But of course his cartoons are about a society which he doesn't live in anymore. And I have to tell you that going to Iran, which of course it's opening up to the West during the agreement between China, England, USA and so on, it's being more opening also up for more democracy, but it's still a strange country. It's a man's world, to quote an old famous song, because women should not show their hair when they're walking out on the street. They shouldn't show their skin, and there is censorship all over, and censorship in Iran today is like a cancer. You know that the censorship is there, but you can't really put your finger or understand where is it and how does it affect your life. And you don't know whether the borders would change and so on. But I have to say that cartoonist is not only pushing the red lines or whatever you call it in Iran. Cartoonist lives a dangerous life all over the world, and that is something to take into consideration when we think about it. Cartoonists being censorship, they've been put in jail, they disappear for never to come back, and I just have to remind you that a year ago there was the big attack on Charlie Hebdo, where 8 journalists and cartoonists were killed. And I think it's the leader of the Cartoonist Rights Network International who said something about that the world has waken up to the power and the influence from the cartoonists, unfortunately through violence and killings, and that is the problem with the cartoonists who now is trying to push the limits all over the world. But Iran, just have to quick say that is everything, nearly everything is forbidden, but everything is legal, because behind the doors you will have wild parties with 20 girls in bikinis. You will have drugs, you will have alcohol, and people will talk freely to you. But the list of everything which is not allowed in Iran is quite long. It's not, you should not kiss another person in public. And being a gay can be in the most extreme situation, be death penalty for. Because in the government in Iran thinks that there ain't no cure for being a gay. And the same with alcohol, of course, and drugs and pornography. It's not illegal to do that. But there is a kind of optimism in Iran. The tourists are coming. A lot of them are to do their noses. That's the surgeons in Iran are experts on making noses look more prettier. And also they are very good in this kind of implement breast and so on. And of course there was a big scandal in Iran when an American porn star came to do her breast in Iran. You can imagine what that will be like, because USA is still Satan in Iran. We went to Paris and we went to Tehran and we went to Iceland. And why Iceland? Because I don't know if anybody of you are interested in chess, but somebody probably remember the name Bobby Fischer, who did a big fight in chess between the Russian Spassky about the world's title in '72. And this is Orlando Luis Padua-Lasso, who is a Cuban blogger, writer, photographer. Originally, he used to work with vaccines in a small place in Havana. But he started to blog and he started to express his opinion. And there was a normal thing which I think would illustrate what kind of trouble it is, because when somebody went abroad to a conference and came back to the company, and if they didn't come back, everybody would line up and they would tell the most terrible things about the people who have left. And Orlando didn't quite like that. In the beginning he was a part of that as well, but then he thought, well, what have they done wrong? Why shouldn't they be able to go to another place and live there, and if that's what they want? But and he started blogging, and he was also in a way pressing this border which I'm talking about. And one day he was calling to the office for his boss, and the boss said, "You have to quit your job, you have to leave, you can't stay here anymore." And suddenly he was out on the street, unemployed, and what shall I do now? It was a shock for him, because he thought he had been a part of the system, done what he should have done, been a scientist in Cuba's, which is a well-known health system, and he thought that this will be my life, and suddenly there was something else. And he wasn't a dissident in his own opinion, but he was described as being a dissident by the government of Cuba. And if you are a dissident in Cuba, you are not an angel, you are a demon. So, and I have to say that going to Cuba was a big surprise for me, because I've been a fan of, when people ask me, are you left? I say, are you extreme left or are you right left? Being a socialist or whatever, I say I'm the sensible left. And but of course, I was an admirer of Fidel Castro and his 8 hours long speeches, socialism or death, which is his main slogan for Fidel Castro. It was, and Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea. He lived for many years in Cuba, admiring Castro and Hemingway. And I thought, I'm going to paradise. But I have to disappoint you. This is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship. So all the tourists that's have been to Cuba, enjoyed the ride with the old American cars, been dancing in the street. There is no freedom of speech in Cuba. And I think that is one of the values we have to put on when we decide whether there is democracy or dictatorship. And you have this big place where you have Che Guevara chair on the wall saying always towards victory and live the free Cuba and so on. And but Orlando, he fled Cuba and he went to Iceland because he was an admirer because of Bobby Fischer playing the chess. That was the most drastic thing you can do in that famous fight between the Russian player and the American player. You supported the American player, and Orlando and his father supported Bobby Fischer. And in Cuba we met a lot of people. Leah Velares, she's playing bass in the punk band Porno para Ricardo, Porno for Ricardo, and that is a band who never can have a concert in Cuba, and should they play live they have to go to different countries. She is under surveillance all the time, and when Obama came to Cuba she was trying to go out and make a protest out on the street, and when she went out the front door, 2 men came and took her into a cab and put her into jail. These are bloggers, these are cartoonists. Khaled Harara lives in Gothenburg in Sweden. He is a rapper. He's a rapper from Gaza, which is the biggest prison in the world. He was born in Yemen. Both his parents are doctors. They are from Palestine, both of them, and they have been members of PLO. And what was his crime against Hamas, which used to run the Gaza? Yes, he was doing some concerts and his hands was going to close down, and then they thought that you are making fun of the Palestinian people, and rap is not popular in Gaza. And that is Gaza. You have to remember that Gaza is a tiny piece of land, little smaller than Oslo, not far away from us. But 2 million people live on that small place, and there's the highest rate of unemployment amongst young people, and nearly 50-55% of the inhabitants have a kind of status like refugees. And it's a very, very, very difficult place to live. Because if you're against Fatah, who runs on the West Bank, you'll be arrested. If you criticize Hamas in Gaza, you also risk the same. And if you make any critical comments against Israel, you'll probably be stranded in Gaza for the rest of your life. But Khaled, he fled, and he now living in Sweden, and hoping someday maybe he will be able to go back as well. I introduce you to Sonali. She was a journalist. She married an editor in a newspaper, and the marriage lasted only for 12 days. Then her husband was killed, attacked on the street, and was killed. And there's a kind of nobody can write a kind of crime novel like that, because it's the main the head detective who was looking into this crime. He committed suicide, and the doctor who came to examine the body, he took some papers to his home and didn't want to show them to the rest of the people. But this editor, he's when he was killed in 2009, he said, when he was asked beforehand, don't you know that this is dangerous, that you can be killed? And his answer was that death will arrive when it does. We can't fear death, we will just have to go on. So suddenly a day the death will come and take you. This is kind of a happy story, because after she fled, her husband killed, newspaper closed down, she fled, and she is now working at the United Nations delegation for Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, as you probably know, has been through a terrible civil war between the Tigers of Tamil in the north and the government. People see Sri Lanka as a kind of paradise island, and it really is, but it's also a society which is still struggling very much to have freedom of speech. And in this, he wrote this Lasanta, he wrote before he was killed, he wrote a piece of article, and in this piece of article he quotes the poem from the German priest who was put in jail by the Nazis, and in this poem he writes about, he said somewhere that first they came to take the socialists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a socialist, and then they came and take the union people. I said nothing because I wasn't a union man. Then they took the Jews, and I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came and they took me, and there was nobody left to say something. I think that's it's a powerful story from the message from Brave to La Santa. But this is a happy story in a way. And this gentleman, he's been on stage, he's a poet, I have to say that, and a blogger, and on the internet he is presented like this. Why is it not working? Always there's something.
I am Ratan Samadder. I am a Bangladeshi blogger. I had to flee Bangladesh because I was in a death list. The list was prepared by a radical Islamic organization in 2013, and now I live in Bergen, Norway, and I don't know whether and when I will be able to go back to Bangladesh.
Okay, we went to, as I said, we were to London, we went to Iceland, then went to Cuba, Havana. This is Ratan's home. There's the place where he is writing in his daughter's bedroom. This is Dhaka. And you have to remember that Bangladesh, approximately 200 million people, which are living on a land which is half the size of Norway. There's a lot of people there, I have to say. And the traffic in Dhaka is, you don't move in the traffic, you are in the traffic. So it's, and there's a lot of, we started up with this concept, and there's a lot of suffering in Bangladesh. That's true. But people, and that is the same wherever we went in this project, people are trying their best to go on with their lives. They get up in the morning, they wake their children, they walk them to school, they go to work, and they try to keep on as good as they can. So in that way, they are not much different from you who are sitting here as well. And Bangladesh is noisy, it's crowded, but it's a fascinating place. And I have to say the people there, not only Ratan, but the rest of them. And we also met, you decided to leave. Chowdhury, which is a famous photographer, an activist as well, who also had been attacked, he decided to stay. And when several bloggers was killed in 2013, he made a t-shirt with a message saying, "I'm a blogger." And his message to the world was that don't go for the young ones, go for me, take me. And I think that's a question. When do people decide to leave, and what makes them decide to stay? And Chowdhury says that this is my country, my fight is here, I can't go in exile, I'm a privileged man, if I can't stay and take the risk, who shall then stay? So there's big questions, and we went also to Våga, the hometown of, and met the poet and activist Roman Sharif, a young man, 24 years old, been on the run for a long time, hiding in the jungle because he had opinions about religion, society, and 20 years old, he could call himself an atheist and a philosopher, and he believed, maybe he was naive, he said, but he believed that he could change the world to a better place. But then the threats came, he was attacked on the street, he was visited by strange men in his home, and he had been living with his cousin for a long time in the jungle, and he is not free to walk around like we do. And we have to say that certain areas Bangladesh is going the wrong way, and you probably will tell us more about that, but the government isn't doing very much to help the people who stands up for the freedom of speech. This is Khaled in the National Day in Sweden. This is the way into Gaza. It's not easy to come in, even more difficult to get out. Yasser Arafat is still a hero to somebody. This is Mana in Paris. This is Tehran. And this is strange and picture from Tehran, because girls should not be doing this. But she is going on the roller skater, and she says that the boys tease me, my mother don't like it, but I feel free, I feel I can fly. Sonali working in the UN with her husband, going to Sri Lanka. And then we try to publish this story in different places on Instagram. The problem disappeared, of course, when we, or occurred when we, because some places we would go to, we couldn't tell we were journalists, so we would tell them we were teachers, learning the pupils German, because if you tell them that you are a journalist when you arrive, you will have somebody in the shadows all the time, and you put a lot of people in danger only by talking to them. So sometimes we have to take away what we have written on Instagram before we left to certain countries. This is Havana. Then we advertised the story who was coming, 5 big stories, approximately 75, 80 pages in the newspaper. On the website, in print, Orlando this is the dissident in Cuba. And podcast.
I 1972 ble det spilt et legendarisk parti sjakk i Reykjavik på Island. Det amerikanske sjakkgeniet Bobby Fischer møtte den russiske verdensmesteren Boris Spassky til finalespill i verdensmesterskapet. 27 år senere, en aprildag i 1999, fikk kubaneren Orlando Luis Pardo Lasso beskjed om å møte på sjefens kontor. Orlando var biokjemiker, han utviklet vaksiner på et forskningsinstitutt i Havana og hadde en trygg fremtid som vitenskapsmann i Kubas berømte gratis helsesystem. Men denne dagen i 1999 falt hele denne fremtiden i grus. Orlando fikk sparken, han var blitt stemplet som en dissident, en fiende av Kuba og revolusjonen.
Suddenly, something serious happened. Now you have become dissident, and like a silence, a rumor.
Hva hadde han gjort galt? Og hva hadde Bobby Fischer og sjakkpartiet på Island betydd for oppsigelsen? Det skal vi snart fortelle.
This is my colleague Jan. Being a journalist can sometimes be a difficult job, but most of us it's just pleasure. But the biggest concern making these stories was that we are just visiting the countries, talking to people, and people have to live there when we have left. And we were very aware of not putting anybody in more danger, because speaking to journalists in a lot of those countries would put you on a kind of a list from the government and probably end up in jail. So we didn't want people to have more problems after we left. So in Iran you will be put up if you're a journalist, and that was the only place we told that we were journalists, because if we had been caught in Iran, we'd probably be ended up for quite a long time in jail. So there we told them we were journalists, and there was a gentleman who was going with us everywhere we went. We were lucky with him because he was a nice man. But in the evenings, when he had left the hotel, we slipped out to meet people in secret. And how do you take pictures of freedom of speech, or how rather say the lack of freedom of speech? That's very, very difficult regarding pictures. And how do you present them in the newspaper? This is a legal picture from Iran. Why is it legal? Because Roya is showing her hair. It's a lovely hair, and then you have the opportunity to take a picture like this, or like this. This is taken in secret in a hotel stairway, or show her the way she is. I think I prefer the last one. We'll end this story with the man who now in Norwegian can say rain. Rain. I think your English has improved very well the last year, I'm glad to say. And of course you have to be able to say rain if you live in Bergen. If not, you will probably be treated worse than you were in Bangladesh. I think there's kind of a death list for people who can't say rain in Bergen. I'll just end with reading a little piece from our friend in the jungle. Roman Sharif, who has told the story. He left us, went back to his house, closed the door to the bedroom, and turned on his computer. His fingers were looking for new letters, new words on the screen. For every word he puts on the screen, he is in bigger danger. And when we left, he lifted his hand to farewell, and he said, "I hope we can see each other again, if I will be alive." And his message to all of us is that everybody has to be brave. Everybody has to fight against those who would silence other voices than their own, which doesn't accept the freedom of speech, who will kill people they don't like. If we accept and give in for fear, which is the only and strongest weapon those extremists have, everybody has lost. We have tried to do stories about censorship, oppression, freedom of speech, but it also stories about the big and difficult decisions you take in life, being free or unfree, about courage, and at the end about life and death. I find it very hard in life to have heroes, but I have to do an exception for some of them, because I think that those 5 people we met, and I think I also have to include our 2 other friends from Bangladesh here tonight. I think they are the real heroes for the fight of freedom of speech, and let us all join them and also support them. And then I will have the pleasure to invite on stage the 3 heroes in my life. Welcome. It's okay. Yeah. As I said, these three gentlemen have refusing the safety of silence. And I have to start with you, Tutu, which has been, you were on the death list, you were attacked, and why didn't you give up the fight and became one of the silent ones?
Sorry, I am not silent. I am continuing my fight because yes, I was bound to left my country because after the attack, I didn't get any place to go back my home or any other place of Dhaka city or others anywhere. So I was bound to left my country from hospital. After the 10 days from hospital, I went to my country and I went to Nepal for my safety, for my and my family's safety. But I never think.
But before you were attacked, you could have the opportunity. You could have said, "I will be silent from now on." Why didn't you do that?
Because I told many times, because my publishing and my editing and all of my work, that was not only for my only business related or only others personal anything. Because I always think now I'm doing something as a socio-cultural movement, because I want to aware my people for democracy, for free speech. So it was my duty, and still now I'm feeling it is my duty. So I never think when police told me, when others, some relative actually pressurized me, stop your work this. So I never feel it for only for demanding the fundamentalist and only for demanding the police. I am stopping all of this kind of work. So actually I never thinking. So I'm stopping publishing, I'm stopping editing, I'm stopping activism.
If we pass the microphone then to Ratan. Do you see yourself as brave?
Yeah, now it seems that you cannot celebrate because I had to. I played for my country, but yeah, I thought myself as brave, but I could not say that. I need to consider my wife, my son, my daughter, and I never thought of leaving Bangladesh. I wanted to fight being there, but yeah, and that's why I do. But still, I think myself, yeah, it seems that I played, so I am not a brave, like you told about Shahidul Islam. Yeah, he is still living at Ruman Sharif or others. But yeah, I am brave, but I am at the same time I had to consider the others, my family.
If you don't mind, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into that moment when you decide, you stand at kind of a bridge, you can cross the bridge, and there is no way back, and you know that there's a bridge to danger and even to death. What goes on in your mind and your head at that moment?
I don't understand. Okay, in this time, I'm not thinking anything. I stop just this time. I stop Facebook, blogging, everything for a few days. But it's not possible to stop my writing. So I again open fake name in Facebook and I again to write. But this time I feel for my family, for my wife and my two sons, because if I did, my son lost his father, and my wife also his husband. And I also feel my mother. I am one son in my mother. So in my mother thinking, his son is lost when he alive. Like in my friend Nil, he is one of son in his mother. I talk every day, every week. Try to talk in Nil's mother, and every time is 2 years ago Nil killed. But every day when I call in Nil, she is crying. Like this, I feel this is one mother when lost his son. It's very difficult for situation, very hard time.
Is it possible to describe how death threats affect you as a person, or even change you maybe?
Yeah. Before I put another point, after the attack, when I was laying in hospital, and when I was informed that Icon invited me, so my wife is here. You can ask her. I told them, my wife and some friends, no, I don't want to move my country. I want to stay here. I want to fight. Because that time I had a lot of emotion. So emotionally actually, but reality was not there. But I expressed my opinion to my relative and wife. But actually, ultimately, I had to take decision to move country. And can you repeat your next question?
How does death threats affect you as a person, or even change you?
Yeah, actually, when I got the threat, first time I didn't actually care their threats because actually I didn't think somebody will attack me and kill me. I don't know why. But when I saw one by one they attacked, they killed Abhijit Rai and Ananta Bijoy and Washikur Rahman Babu. So that time actually I was got something in my mind, and when I went to my office, I had received every day a lot of unknown persons phone. They asked me about something actually, like somebody asked me. I wrote a book. I wrote a manuscript. So can you publish it? So what kind of manuscript? This is the like Abhijit Rai's book. So when I told them, who are you? Please send your manuscript by mail. They told me, no, we are not. I'm not sent it by mail. I want to meet with you. So some people are actually. I'm always feeling when I go outside or when I went to my home, and when I go by different kind of road when I follow. So I think some person are actually following me. So all of this scenario, all of this situation actually changed my everything. I almost actually stopped to went my office. I was attacked 31st October 2015. But before, actually, I went to my office at 25 October. Then after 5 days, I went to my office. So I published more than 1,000 items books. So it was some kind of big publication. I had some business, but all of my lost, and also my daughters. I stopped their school regularly because I was afraid every time. Also, before the 1 month attack, the I was living in third floor. The second floor is same flat. Some person are actually they broken the grill at night, and maybe after that I think maybe they had a target to third floor, but they were mistaken. So you can imagine what kind of actually changes was my life and lifestyle.
Who are the most vulnerable groups of people in Bangladesh?
Yeah, if I consider Bangladesh, the ethnic minorities who are living, yeah, except the atheists, I mean, I consider the other. They are the ethnic minorities. There are maybe 25 ethnic minorities in Bangladesh. They are a small group of people. They have their own languages, own culture, but they don't have like only speaking, no alphabet or other. But they are being, oppressed since, I can say since independence. And they are in some areas, they are in the margin, they are living in the margin, they might become extinct. Like few months ago, one community, there Santal, they are very few, and they have been oppressed even by the police. Their houses have been burned, but yeah, we see that our Prime Minister visited Rohingya, but our Prime Minister did not visit the Santal communities.
Are you optimistic regarding the future for your country?
Yes, but I think because day by day is growing Islamic thinking people's not Islamic thinking people is not problem. Basically, fundamentalist thinking, that's like terrorist thinking, like jihad. And day by day, this day by day going in past time in 10 years or 20 years ago, Bangladesh is like little bit secular country, but day by day now is grown by mostly fundamentalist group. So I thinking, but in online media and blogging site and many blogger and writers is coming, secular writers basically, and so much intelligent. They try to write positive thinking and write to humanity, like write against terrorism. So I thinking is maybe developed, but it's need time.
What kind of responsibility do you feel towards bloggers, writers, publishers, which are left in Bangladesh?
Of course, I thinking it's left Bangladesh.
Which still live in Bangladesh.
I think the writing is now carefully and hidden their name. Basically, normal when is just one person writing normal thinking, but some people thinking this is bad writing. When is like humanity, like women rights, and some terrorists thinking this is not right thinking. So they are try to attack and trades and finds the people. So their writing, I thinking, is so much system. There's not a direct attack, just a hidden name. Also not against Islam, just against terrorists. But many small writer, small blogger, is new young boy. There is directly attacking Muslim religious. So normal people thinking is there is bad. They are thinking bad is Muslim religious, but our not thinking about religious. Our thinking is terrorism.
Will there ever be freedom of speech in Bangladesh?
It's difficult. Actually, I think basically it's the lackings of the proper democracy. It's the basically actually duty to the politicians, political situation and thinking also.
So I'm waiting actually for real democracy in Bangladesh. I think if it will grow up and established in Bangladesh, so maybe the others, the freedom of speech and others, human rights will be will keep properly in Bangladesh, which is still now written our constitution.
What is it like to live away from the society you are writing, blogging about?
Yeah, I mentioned little when I speak. I mean, I am not a theoretical writer. I took the elements from the society, and that's the difficulties for me because, yeah, Obijitrai and some others, they would write both theoretical and science and other things, but I always took the material from the society, and that's a difficulty being here in Norway. I get news from newspapers and others, but they tell their things, but I cannot feel the way I used to feel when I was in Bangladesh. So being away from the environment, it's hampering my writing.
Is it possible to compensate the lack of
there's
people, voices?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and that's why I am going to the root of these things, and that's why I am trying to writing a novel about the root causes of these things what now we see. But yeah, Bangladesh was not a country like this, but yeah, it was totally different. Even now, you see, Bangladesh is having women prime ministers since 1991. No other country maybe in the world you could see that. But being a Muslim country, you could imagine that you could get that how Bangladesh is. Bangladesh people is not the way that you see the other Muslim countries are.
Is your voice more or less important now when you live in a country where you're free than when you lived in Bangladesh? How important is your voice now?
It was a difficult question because
give us a difficult answer then.
Because I think yes, you know, I started my online magazine recently, and when I asked my some writer friends to write something on my magazine, so they actually telling me not now, because situation still now is our opposed. So actually they have some afraid, is a hidden afraid, because they are thinking if I write on Chowdhury, if I write on Total's magazine, so maybe I will also target it, and maybe my daily life will be hampered. So this is the practical and real situation, and so I cannot actually showing my voice is very affected in as a Bangladesh aspect, or in Bangladeshi my society, the writers and publishers society. But I believe that I know that my voice, it's not my voice, it's everybody's voice, is continuing working in all of this progressive writers, all of these progressive activists, also publisher and other everybody's.
There's a lot of discussion going on whether we should go to countries which is not a democracy. Should we go to North Korea? Should we go to Iran? Should we just stay away? Should we European avoid Bangladesh, or what would your advice be to us? Should we go there?
this time.
How can we help the society in Bangladesh move into a brighter future?
But this time is so much difficult to stay in Bangladesh, basically for foreigners. But it's not too possible to reach without going in Bangladesh. So I thinking for conference like workshop, like writing workshop, anything. So when we grow in day by day, but it's difficult to continue in Bangladesh for as foreigners.
But can't people, tourists coming, can't that help to provide the society to
I thinking they use
put that kind of pressure on the government?
It's an international any organization is maybe pressure when any organization in Bangladesh, when pressure in government, then government takes some step. But when lose the pressure, government against go to in terrorism, positive thinking, and now is the government is coalition is Hepatit Islam. This is the main fundamentalist group in Bangladesh now.
If you were to describe the way the Norwegian society have met you, how would that be in your words? How would you describe the reception in Norway?
Yeah, I am overwhelmingly excited because when I arrived in Bergen, I got the reception. I did not expect that, and it was really unexpected. And people of Bergen, they received me cordially, and I have got every support from them whenever I needed it, and still I am getting it. And now here I have been invited in Skien, and I am overwhelmingly excited by getting this reception here. I am. If someone travels in Bangladesh, they will not receive this type of response. Yeah, I am very much positive. And
are you safe in Norway?
Yeah, I think I am safe, but still, when I meet people from my country, I still maintain some kind of self-restriction that with whom I should contact and with whom I should not. And there are many people from Bangladesh. They are in Bergen, but I only mix with the only the people who are cultured, and they are in a sort of involved in cultural activity like music and poem and other. Still, not with everyone. I am not afraid of the, but still the way I faced in Bangladesh is still what is that? It's still sometimes I am afraid. When I am walking alone on the road in the night, I have some sort of brightness still. But there is no real. Maybe there is no real thing to be frightened of. But it's still I feel.
Chowdhury, will you echo that?
Yes, I have also same feelings like Ratan. When I was arrived here, now I think I was more in deep trauma that time, but still now I'm remembering the warm reception in 29th January of 2016 when all Norway was covered by the white snow, and when we actually came from Oslo to Skien by a red big big microbus. Arneola drive this bill. Maybe we had to taking 2 hours time, but still now I thinking. Yesterday night I also discussed with about this subject with my wife. Maybe the time I was thinking it was more than 8 or 10 hours. So, but every people they are receiving very warmly. They are helping. They are very cordially, and yes, I got every support from them. Actually, I cannot explain all of my expression, all of my feelings, all of my gratitude word.
Will you be able to go back to Bangladesh someday?
I am not sure about this. I thinking, but in this situation, it's not possible.
What?
Yeah, even if I wanted, it's not possible now because my passport is to the police. So, and the paper I have received is every country except Bangladesh.
What about you?
If I ensured, I will walking in Dhaka and other city street as alone. Yes, I will go back tomorrow.
I have to say to you at this point, it's not possible to walk alone in the streets of Dhaka. There's always people there.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
But I was walking. Yeah.
What are your hopes for the future?
I have lot of dreams. I have lot of dreams. When I actually I was attacked, then after I thinking something very emotionally. And when I left Bangladesh and I was live in Nepal, a very temporary period. That time I had some emotional thinking also. And when I actually when I start to feel yes, I am now free, I am now safe. So actually I started some another way to thinking about myself, my work, and other something. But I came here 2016 January, and now already 18 months already passed. So I'm saying actually every month after some days my thinking is continuously changing as per aspect of some reality. So I'm actually now thinking about my concentration and my experience. Actually, I have to fix something. I have to fix something for my rest of life. So now I'm started actually thinking for fix something, because this situation, this reality, everybody changing my some thinking, something. So now I am started to thinking for future. I hope I will do very recently.
Like Tutul, I also sense every day my mind, my thinking in my future plan. But I try to start. I already try to start our past organization, Bangladesh Science and Rationalist Association, to build up in Europe. And also in my target, this is not on Norway. In my childhood, I have one hobby. In last time I get a big farm, and I stay all time in nature. And continue I writing try to, and I'm not sure in in future what kind of work I do, but I thinking every day and I change in mind. Just now I coming, but I have not a good future plan.
Yeah, I will add little about my previous question. I was making actually joke. Yeah, a few days ago I watched the Netflix series Narcos. Pablo Escobar, maybe. Yeah. It was declared $7 million for his head, and he came in his city, and he was sitting on a park bench with his beard grown, and nobody could identify him. I mean, it's happened really or not. I mean, it was in the series, and I was thinking that okay, if I took some sort of disguise that people could not identify me, I could be there in Bangladesh, like Pablo Escobar was sitting there, and it was. Sorry, it was settling. Okay. I have already passed 2 years here in Norway, and I am still in indecision what I will do in future. Once, my education has been approved here in Norway, but the subject I have studied in Bangladesh, it's not possible to get a job without get a degree here as well. So I was now thinking about education, and again my health condition was not well last year. It was very bad. I was almost on the bed in the winter. So and again I got this out. And at the same time, I am trying to now write novel in English, and main thing I am thinking, but still I have not decided anything yet.
We are glad to have you in Norway, and we're glad for what you have done for freedom of speech. Friends, Chowdhury, Jahid, and Ratan. Give them a hand. Thank you.
We'd like you to stay on stage for a little bit more. Just wait here. Well, I'm just telling you about jeg kan snakke på norsk nå kanskje. I morgen kan du komme tilbake klokka 6. Da skal vi ha et helt annet tematikk. Da handler det om pressefrihet i USA. Vi skal vise en dokumentarfilm som heter plutselig ikke kan hete. Husker du det? Nei. Trust of the Free Press. I hvert fall i undertittelen. Veldig spennende film klokka 6 med samtale etterpå, der både redaktøren for Varden og Thea skal komme sammen med Finn, og det blir flere. Det kan se det på programmet. Og så vil jeg takke alle sammen, og nå får jeg sånne ting her, så her. Skal du hjelpe meg? Kanskje du kan gi deg, så kan jeg gi deg. Thank you very much for participating. Yes. Takk til deg også. For blond. Thank you very much. I'll give you a white rose. We think the white rose is a nice symbol for beauty and freedom. Så, takk for I kveld, og velge.
Yes, we see it tomorrow. Yes.